For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Shannon Ryhove. Global Success Summit's founder Greg Secker joins me to discuss this year's South African Success Summit. You are the founder and driving force behind the popular Global Success Summits. Can you tell us about the Success Summits as well as what inspired you to create them?
It's a Success Summit platform to really pull together some of the best speakers in the world in the areas of health, wealth, leadership, entrepreneurialism, making a difference, contribution and relationships. It's all about giving people a real balanced platform of really the best education in the world from some of the best thought leaders in the world. And so the idea is you've got to sort of combine really speakers from all over the world that fly in, and some of them speak pro bono, some of them offer programs that people can get involved in, and others just give very deep kind of educational lessons in 90 minutes. So it's a real case of grab your notepad and write down as much as you can.
What inspired you to start them?
Well, I used to speak on a number of different platforms which are very similar in concept around the world, and I came to South Africa really on a charity mission about 5 years ago, and meeting the locals, and I was asked to do a talk to a number of students who were just leaving university as to what they should do next with their life. The question was, what should I do next? And the answer was, well, it's not so much about worrying too much about the career, it's really worrying more about who are you and what do you want to do with your life, and really focusing on that and then fitting that into a career that allows you to be, do and have the things that you want, in your life. And then I asked, do you have many success summits where you get access to people who have mastered themselves in the areas of the different subject areas I just said? And there was a sort of a resounding no, we don't have any of that here. So I thought, well, let's see if we can bring it. So we brought the first South African Success Summit to Johannesburg last year in 2013, 1st and 2nd of March. Fortunate then to have Sir Richard Branson, who's a good friend, to headline the event. Obviously Richard's really well regarded down here in South Africa, so that really got things off with a bang. And then the idea is really, how do you put together the most eclectic mix of people to give the most balanced message? Some of the events that I've participated in the past, there's been too much overselling of people with products and programs, and I don't think that's the right way to do it. You've got to have a good balance between education and then opportunities. So the idea really is to sort of cobble together a message which people can get real benefit from on the day and grab opportunities, but it can't all just be opportunities. It's got to be a real balance of local, sometimes unsung heroes and well-sung heroes, and the global, the global team as well. So that's what it's about.
What is your definition of success, and what motivates you?
I think success can really only be defined when you've clearly defined it for yourself. So success on somebody else's terms is having 15 companies and having all the money in the world, and for other people it's having a very well balanced family life. I think the real question to ask is, what do I desire? And I think many of us live our life on other people's terms, and I think that always leaves us empty, because we're always trying to live by somebody else's values, beliefs or rules. And it's really about being clear with yourself about who you are first of all, and what do you stand for, and what do you love most about yourself, and what's most exciting about what you have to offer to the world, and then building upon that success as opposed to trying to live life on somebody else's terms. I think that's what really success is. It's about becoming more of who you are rather than trying to be something you're not. I always say it's better to be a first-rate version of yourself than a second-rate version of somebody else. But what really drives me, and my primary driver in life, is making a difference, trying to make a difference to somebody else's life. So our different seminar programs that I'm involved in, we run something like 40 seminar programs around the world in the areas of sort of health, wealth, leadership, entrepreneurship, making a difference, contribution, relationships, finance, financial success, investment strategies. And then most importantly, right now I'm involved in writing a book called The Gift, which is about how to live your greatest life. So for me, it's what makes me happiest is not just about the money in the bank, but it's about, most importantly, trying to make a difference to somebody else's life at this point in my life.
Why have you chosen South Africa to host one of your Global Success Summits, and what can delegates expect at this year's summit?
Well, this year it's a really interesting mix. So you've got one of the co-founders of Apple, which is Steve Wozniak. Obviously, dear Steve Jobs, obviously he's passed, but Steve Wozniak was really the IT, the technical brains behind Apple. And then right on the other side, you've got a man who made his career from really ripping people off. I mean, originally, Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, went to prison and had this most incredible, colourful past. And then how he's come through that, the lessons he learnt from it, to then go on and use, all those I guess, lessons he had of how he created this massive empire that he created, which, from relatively ill gains, and how he's turned it around and how he's used those messages to empower people to do well. And he's now, he's regarded as a philanthropist, and he speaks in some of the largest corporations around the world, and is regarded as one of the top coaches in the world today, but from a very different background. So it's a real mix. I find that one of the speakers I love the most is Dr. John DeMartini, and I know he has his headquarters here in South Africa, and we became really dear friends about 10 years ago, and I think he has a very important message. It reminds me of the old Alan Watts, who sadly is passed now, but just very, very deep, poignant messages, which I think you have to kind of transcend yourself a little bit to really understand the deeper meaning of some of those messages, and that's why I think it goes down well so much in South Africa. South Africa as a country seems to be much more spiritual than just, set up companies, become millionaire, divorce wife, get younger model, go buy sexy car, live in big house, which seems to be the sort of modicum of, sort of North America a little bit and perhaps other parts of the world. Whereas South Africa seems to be a little bit more connected to its roots here. And so I think the sort of spiritual speakers and the depth of the message they have always goes well. And I think that's why when you have a Dr. John DeMartini open the event, which we did last year, it just gets the game going perfect, because everyone resonates with him, and I find then that people are open to deeper messages here.
Can you tell us about the youth leadership program you've started in Port Elizabeth?
Yeah, we run a charity foundation called the Knowledge to Action Foundation, and very much in the same way we run these events for adults to have access to all those areas of health, wealth, leadership, entrepreneurship, contribution and relationships. I felt that it would be a good idea to start a charity foundation supporting children from 13 to 17. We work a lot with the Ubuntu Education Fund in Port Elizabeth, and we support them financially, and certainly have done for the last 3 years, in developing their centre, which is in the centre of a township called Swady in Port Elizabeth. They built this huge youth centre which takes children really from the cradle up to universities, from adversity to universities, is their slogan, and they're an incredible charity foundation. So we've worked quite closely with those, and because they have the centre, they're available, and they feed and school the children all the way through the holidays as well as in school time. We have the availability of the centre. So we're looking to run our youth leadership summits that we run currently in England, down here in South Africa, where we fly in again all these different motivational speakers. It's a residential programme for 10 days, and children have the access for 12 hours a day from 7 in the morning. It's quite hard work, 7 in the morning till 7 at night, to the same kind of speakers that will be participating at this year's Success Summit that that sort of adults will be attending. And it's really about giving them the best chance and the best start in life, with some of the messages that I suppose in the 80s we would have called soft skills, but really today, a little bit more educated, tells us these are really the critical life skills that we are often denied in the traditional scholastic system. And so these are things like, how do you live your greatest life on your terms as opposed to somebody else's? What really is success to you, and how do you define it? What are your values? What are your beliefs, and what are your rules? Your rules are, what has to happen in order for me to feel happy, sad, depressed, successful? How do we define them so we can ensure that we are living our lives not in conflict? What are our beliefs on the premise that the realms of possibility for us are really built inside of our walls of our own belief? It was the famous T. Harv Eker that said, it's not that people are aiming for here in life and missing it. That's not what's going on. People are aiming for here and they're hitting it. How do we change those belief systems that we live under? And of course those are changed by spending time with people who already live in a different belief mindset. And so then how do we change our peer groups in a delicate way so as not to upset our traditional peer groups, but ensure we have people that are leaders that can lead us beyond our current contained belief system into a new reality. And then by living and thinking in that belief system, we then live into that reality. And our values are really what's most important to us. How do we make sure that we all have basic human needs, and we all know that we'll break our values to meet our needs, but how do we really ensure that our values and our needs are consistent, and that we're spending time in relationships with people where we're not living in conflict? You have somebody in a relationship who's really high adventure and another person who's high certainty. Boy, they're going to have trouble. Well, we don't know this technology. They don't teach us this at school. But in these kind of programs, we really do. And so we believe in teaching by immersion. So 12 hours a day for 10 days. And you'll see children, I call them children, young adults really, transform. So we try to ensure there are good support frameworks to continue what we've done. So we've worked with a group which provide 450 life coaches around the UK to support the ongoing coaching and and establishment of these new distinctions that they've made, and we intend to do the same in South Africa. So it's very exciting.
South Africa has a very high unemployment rate. What advice would you give entrepreneurs in South Africa to help them become successful business owners?
Well, I think the most important thing to be aware of is that it doesn't really matter where you live today. You can compete on the global stage, and by using the internet and by using Skype and the different tools and technologies that are available to us. When we have our summits, we often have different speakers. We had a speaker last year who became a multimillionaire just from trading on eBay. Now, you could be anywhere in the world and trade eBay. You could be a financial trader and trade online, living in South Africa. In fact, one of our other companies, we teach people how to trade the markets from just using a laptop and internet connection. So, I think today we live in a global stage, and there's opportunities outside of South Africa which I think people are quickly coming to terms with and working with. I was fortunate enough a couple of years ago to open the Sandton Centre Entrepreneurship in Joburg, and with Richard Branson and the team of entrepreneurs there, and it was really interesting to listen to just the. I always find Johannesburg as a city is people seem to be very hardworking here, and they seem to have a great ethic for really getting stuck in and trying new things and being inventive, and I found that when we were at the Sandton Centre for Entrepreneurship, people were trying new things which allowed them to work with other countries and be sort of global in their approach, even if they were small startup businesses. So my advice would be look for opportunities that allow you to go to trade well in South Africa, but also outside of South Africa. It's a real global stage, and the real sky is the limit.
That was Greg Secker, founder of the Global Success Summit, discussing this year's South African Summit.